All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We greatly appreciate it. Once again, my name is Gary Olson. I'm Vice President of the Westside Chapter Non-Knights of America Motorcycle Club. I want to thank the City of Temple Terrace and Chief Albano for graciously hosting our memorial here at this location. The idea for the whole Canine Memorial came about after the Westside made a run all over Hillsborough County going to different memorials around the site. We realized there's a lot of individual memorials, but there's not a general regional memorial to honor like the entire state. So we spent the next 4 years fundraising, designing, and building said current memorial. While on our quest to build a memorial, we searched the state, we located a few, once again, they honor theirs, but we want to honor the entire state.
I first want to thank everyone for coming out this morning. Some traveling as far as Miami this morning to be here so that we would be able to come together to honor the names of 31 additional fallen canine officers. This is our third annual Canine Memorial Ceremony, and I would be remiss if I didn't offer a special word of thanks to the local members of the NAM Knights Westside Chapter for covering the initial cost of this beautiful monument and for their continued efforts to help us to update and to maintain this incredible memorial. The memorial serves as a constant reminder of the unfailing loyalty, commitment, and fearless dedication to duty that all law enforcement canines provide to their communities they serve. While this began as a regional endeavor, it has rapidly expanded and now includes 32 agencies from around the state, and as of today will have enshrined 84 law enforcement canines. Courageous, loyal, dedicated, fearless. These are but a few of the attributes that describe the unparalleled devotion that a canine displays toward pleasing and protecting their handler. It is now my honor to share with you the 2024 list of fallen canine officers and the agencies from which they served. From the ATF, Canine Jam, end of watch, March 13th, 2024. From the Bradenton Police Department, Canine Riggs, end of watch, August 2022. From the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, Canine Cargo, end of watch, June 2023. From the Citrus County Sheriff's Office, Canine Riggs, end of watch, March 2024, and Canine Repo, end of watch, March 2024. From the Florida Highway Patrol, Canine Khan, end of watch, October 2023. From the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Canine Keanu, end of watch, February 8th, 2023. From the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Canine Kaiser, end of watch, October the 18th, 2022. Canine Tebow, end of watch, November the 11th, 2022. Canine Ozias, end of watch, August 31st, 2023. Canine Zeus, end of watch, September 5th, 2023. And Canine Champ, end of watch, December 1st, 2023. From the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Canine Savannah, end of watch, January 2024. From the Lakeland Police Department, Canine Astor, end of watch, January 2024. From the Largo Police Department, Canine Murphy, end of watch, April 2024. From the Lee County Sheriff's Office, Canines Jaeger, end of watch August 4th, 2023, and Canine Karma, watch December 2023. From the Marion County Sheriff's Office, Canine Leo, killed in the line of duty, end of watch February the 20th, 2024. From the Miami Police Department, Canine Ricky, killed in the line of duty, end of watch March 2023. From the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Canine Freddy, killed in the line of duty, end of watch October 16th, 2023. From the Orlando Police Department, Canine Vice, end of watch July 2023. From the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, Canine Bosco, end of watch October 6, 2023. From the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Canine Hallis, end of watch March 2023. From the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Canine Knox, end of watch June the 18th, 2023. From the St. Augustine Beach Police Department, Canine Kilo, end of watch March 2024. From the St. Petersburg Police Department, Canine Soren, end of watch November 2022. From the Tampa Police Department, Canine Endo, end of watch November 21st, 2022. From the Tampa International Airport Police Department, Canine Icar, end of watch February 27th, 2024. From the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, Canine Coda, end of watch April 2024. And from the West Palm Beach Police Department, Canine Thor, end of watch February 2023, and Canine Kane, end of watch May 2023. This memorial was created in honor and remembrance of all of these that have been enshrined here today, for those that have preceded them in death, and for those that are yet to follow. Fearless servants, faithful partners, and beloved friends, may they rest peacefully throughout all eternity, and may those they left behind know that your partner will never be forgotten. In remembrance and to honor all of these that have been memorialized here today, please join me in a moment of silence.
First item on the agenda is the consideration of the minutes from the February 20th, 2024 meeting. If the minutes are acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
To approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any comment on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? No nays? Motion passes. Second item on the agenda is a review of the proposed CRA park improvements. Business Relations Manager Greg Pauley will present.
Thank you. I'll make sure I try to get this right. Board members and vice chair, good evening. Greg Pauley, your Business Relations Manager, here tonight with a quick introduction on a two-part presentation that Mr. Langfeld is also going to participate in. And we also have Mr. Ingram in the audience to answer any questions that may involve the finances related to what we're going to share with you tonight. If I could pull the slides up, please. Thank you. Okay. First, just a quick background. As I'm sure you do recall, back earlier this year, it was completed in January and presented to this board in February, the pedestrian master plan. That plan actually did include recommended park improvements for the area surrounding the Springdale Pond. However, it did not include any significant proposed improvements for the vacant Riverside parcels or improvements to the adjacent park next door, the Riverside Park. And I can tell you the reason it did not include these items is because when we created the scope of services for the pedestrian master plan, that vacant parcel was originally listed for sale. So we anticipated selling it at that time. Last year, the city decided to remove those parcels from the list of available parcels for sale. And at that time, staff began looking at those 3 parcels from a more comprehensive position as far as park improvements.
Excuse us a minute. A timer's getting ready to go off and we don't know why.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Didn't want it
Thank you.
to buzz on you.
So just as I was saying, last year, staff began to look at those 3 parcels that I just mentioned in a more comprehensive manner with the idea of an overall plan to improve the amenities and the park lifestyle for that area. Here's a graphic of those 3 properties. You can see the Springdale Pond area there just south of Chicago Avenue along the west edge of Springdale Place. And then immediately south of that, on the south side of South River Hills Drive, we have the Riverside Park, and adjacent to that we have the Riverside parcels, which are the vacant land. In December of last year, Leisure Services staff published a request for quotes for design and engineering services to address the project that we're here to talk about tonight. In February, earlier this year, at the deadline, they received 9 proposals. In March, the proposals were ranked, and the top 4 ranked firms were invited to make presentations to the selection committee. And also in March, the selection committee finalized and selected their final selection of those firms. The selection committee was led by Leisure Services Director Carl Langfeld, and also included Parks and Recreation Division Director Corey Collins and Parks and Athletic Fields Maintenance Supervisor Tony Goodwin. And with that being said, I would like to invite Mr. Langfeld to the podium to share with you a little bit about the work he and his team have done for the last couple of months, and also announce the firm that was selected. And then I will return to the podium and talk about some financing options to help move the project forward.
Good evening, Vice Chair, board members, Carl Langfeld, Leisure Services Director. Just a point of clarification, Mr. Pauly referred to the RFQ as a request for quotes. It was a request for qualifications, not for quotes. When we initiated this process, the costs were not part of the considerations at the time. It was strictly based on qualifications of the firms involved. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit moving forward. When myself and the selection committee began reviewing the options presented to us by the different firms that submitted, there were different presentation factors that we keyed in on to determine which of these firms, which were all immensely qualified to do this work, but which ones really stood out that could provide the city with the best product to meet the vision of what we're trying to accomplish here. So some of the things that we looked in on is which firms provided experience developing park properties on waterfronts, and specifically on freshwater and riverfront waterfronts. Which firms were developing park properties that were coexisting with developed downtown areas, and which firms were developing parks that were incorporating drainage and utility structures into parks. So looking at those three things, we managed to create a short list of 4 firms to select from. Features that we discussed with these firms and things that we wanted to incorporate is pedestrian connectivity from the south side of the city to downtown. We wanted to incorporate boardwalk feature, fishing pier, and canoe and kayak launch. We wanted to incorporate an observation tower to overlook the river. We told them the importance of the preservation of the tree canopy in the area, the beautification of the Springdale Pond and incorporating that, and making improvements to the existing Riverside Park and the Angel of Hope Memorial that is at that location. Some of the challenges that were discussed with the firms were providing adequate space for parking, for park usage and events that may take place in the park, to provide safe pedestrian crossing of River Hills Drive between the Riverside parcel and the Springdale Pond, to make sure that we're including the neighbors and the community in the decision-making process of what this park will ultimately look like, and how we can make sure that the park is safe for all its users by providing lighting, by providing open sight lines, by providing other mitigating factors to make sure that the park is safe for everybody who's using it. And finally, the river is going to be such a key component of this park when it's completed. The permitting process to make sure that we are the proper environmental stewards of the sensitive lands between the upland areas and the river, and to make sure that any work that's done in that wetland area is done responsibly and done with the proper permitting from the proper agencies in order to open that area up to we have the vistas of the river that everybody's going to want to see at that location. Ultimately, the selection committee unanimously decided on Health Engineering as the design firm that was ultimately the best qualified to do the work. Myself and Brian McCarthy sat down with representatives from Health, thoroughly went through the scope of services that they would provide to us, and based on that, they provided to us a cost of services for the work at just over $488,000. On your screen right now, you see a overview of a conceptual plan of what the park can look like and how the features can be built into the park, including the pier, observation, canoe and kayak launch, the parking, crossing at River Hills Drive, and what their ultimate vision for it is. Here they discuss some of the challenges that they see with the park and how it's developed, including the street crossing, the permitting with the agencies that we will need to work with regards to the wetlands, working on parking, working on the safety within the park and the community involvement. The firm did a very good job of, in their presentation to us, of creating some great animations, again showing the potential that this property has and things that can be incorporated in it to create a really a signature park and a signature location within the city that connects our downtown area with the southern area of the city. We currently have agreements from HALF with regards to their scope of services that are at our legal department now under review. I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, and he's going to kind of discuss with you the next steps that we have moving forward with this process.
Thank you, Carl. Very good. Looking at the total cost of the project, $448,066. The funding options that I would like to present tonight involve a two-fund approach. The first being $125,000 from community investment tax funds that are currently budgeted in the fiscal year 24 budget that were actually earmarked for this project. That leaves a balance of slightly greater than $323,000. With that in mind, I would like to propose that those additional funds be paid from the tax increment financing fund. After our presentation this evening, and after each of you had a chance to pose questions that you may have, staff would like to request that the CRA board recommend the forthcoming agreement as well as the funding options proposed be presented to the City Council at an upcoming council meeting. That can be done through motion by this board. And it is our hope to be able to present that to the City Council by June 8, or I'm sorry, on the June 18th City Council meeting. And with that said, I would like to invite your questions, and please, as I mentioned, for the financing component, Mr. Ingram is present to answer questions regarding those funds and payment of this project. I can certainly answer any overview shots of the CRA, and then Mr. Langfeld will be happy to return to the podium to answer questions on the work that he and his team have recently undertaken.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pauly.
Thank you.
Councilmember questions? Mr. Schisler.
Yeah, Jim, Mr. Ingram, question. Regarding the TIF is fine, but, the CIT is fine. Regarding the TIF, what's the fund balance right now? Or what was the fund balance at September 30th?
$12,000.
Where are we now?
This year, we got all our revenues in. We know what our expenses are. We're adding close to 400,000, well, 350 to 400,000 in fund balance. So we do have enough to cover. We need 323,000 to make up the difference. We were already projected to have 351,000 to add to the existing 12,000 for fund balance. And I believe we have one of the budgeted expenditures that we're not going to do this year, which was like another 25, 30,000.
It was 35,000.
35,000.
Well, how much of the debt service will be transferred out of TIF? Any of it, or is it all coming out of general fund?
No, it is coming out of TIF.
Okay.
That's the beautiful thing about it is now our annual TIF revenues are exceeding what we have to pay on the loan, which is about 900,000.
All right, let me ask you a different way then. What's our TIF revenues for the year?
1.309 million.
And our TIF expenses are the 900 and change for the debt service, leaving the reserve of 300 and some odd thousand.
That's right, and we spent 60,000 on the 62,000 on the Curry Bowl demolition.
Okay, what was our plan going forward with that? We were just going to sit on that and rat hole it until we needed it for this project?
Yes, in the budget for '24, we budgeted 351,000 of reserves, which we at the time stated could be used for projects that come along or just to build up the reserve fund.
Okay, excellent. My next question is for Carl. The scope of work, if I may, with half, which half was going to do, This will just be those five steps that you were talking about, permitting?
Well, their scope of work is extensive.
Will there be any dirt turned?
They don't turn dirt, they're the engineering firm, but they will create all of the construction documents. They will also provide construction supervision. The fees that we're talking about are not for the construction of the park. It's strictly for the design and engineering work.
Okay. And then how long will that take?
The design and engineering work, according to my conversations with the firm, will take approximately 12 months to complete.
Okay, so we're looking at turning dirt in
Turning dirt
5
is in probably late '25.
and anticipated completion?
Depending on what council's wishes are with regards to funding and phasing, whether it all happens at once or whether it gets phased out, I would anticipate construction probably taking the better part of a year.
Okay, the delineation between the riverfront park and the river and the other area, that's the canal or the
The
creek or
canal,
whatever it
yes.
is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Love it.
And just to add, that mysterious $35,000, you may recall last year, I came to the podium and I requested monies be earmarked for surveys of the property. That's where that money was. It has not been expensed. That was kind of just left in the account pending this project, of course.
Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
Council members? Mr. Chambers?
Thank you. What's the estimated budget for the project? I know you mentioned phasing, but if we're going to do everything they're designing, do you have any ideas?
My guesstimate at this point is probably going to be in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 million.
Okay, and the project around Springdale Pond, we had planned for a lot of improvements to link with the redevelopment. Is that going to be in part of that, or is that
Yes,
pulled
sir.
out?
That will be a part of that.
Okay.
The project as it's being designed will go from, what's the name of the street at the post office?
Chicago.
Chicago, all the way to the river.
Okay, thank you so very much. It looks great.
Councilmember Fernandez?
So I do want to confirm the design of this project is going to allow for staged or phasing of the project, correct?
Yes, that is a conversation that we've had with the design firm, because at this point, we didn't know all the answers with regards to how the construction was going to take place. Phasing construction is not a difficult process to do, as opposed to phasing design. You really can't phase design, but you
Right.
can phase the construction. And James and I have experience with phasing construction. We did that with the family complex when we built it. We've done that with other projects where phased construction has. The trick is to making sure that you don't leave any unfinished edges, I think is the easiest way to describe that. So.
And then with regard to the size of this space, can you give me an idea of, like, a visualization of the usable space in terms of event usage, as maybe compared to like Woodmont Park or some of the other spaces that we've used for different events?
The current vacant riverfront parcel is between 3 and 4 acres. Woodmont Park is less than an acre.
Can you go back to the slide? Because you have one slide that it shows it. Even though you're talking about that many acres, you're also talking about parking and space that takes up.
Correct.
Event
Some of
space,
this stuff
yeah.
is still conceptual
Yeah.
at this point, and
Excuse me, sir, did you want to see the animated slide, or did you want to see the maps?
There was a
The
good,
still.
there was a still
There was a
the
still
the
map?
first
Yeah.
slide.
that showed the parking and the,
So what I'm talking about when you get that slide up is specifically the open lawn space.
That open lawn space is roughly between 3 and 4 acres.
The great lawn space
Correct.
is specifically, so, for example, if we wanted to host an event there that's been hosted at Woodmont, there's ample space here.
This will provide significantly more space than Woodmont Park has. Now,
What-
Woodmont Park has the advantage of the first fairway across which
expand.
the golf course has expand. But with regards to Woodmont Park, this space is significantly larger.
So any event that we have hosted to date throughout the city would fit here, and we're saying that the parking, even though maybe all the parking wouldn't be right here, we have enough expected parking in other areas?
Well, and again, as I was discussing challenges with this parcel, as we look at these three areas together, is how parking is going to play out in the design aspect of this. That is one of the biggest challenges that we're looking at with the development of this park, is where we're going to put and where we're going to fit adequate parking. When we host, the Arts Festival or Winter Wonderland, we utilize the ball fields, we utilize the school. There is a lot of available parking that is available within a short walking distance of Woodmont Park. We don't have that luxury here unless we start talking about the redevelopment area and the parking there, but now we're talking about the grocery store's parking area and parking that, is used for businesses, and whether or not that's going to be made readily available. Again, parking is one of the primary challenges of this park that the engineering firm is going to have to work on.
City Manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the CRA Board. So just addressing the parking, just to clarify one thing. So the parking, the city does have public parking up by Waverly Terrace Apartments. There are at least 100 spaces that are public there. Now, I know people have used them, the apartment users, they park there as well, but those are city spaces. So if we had an event here, I don't believe there's anything stopping us from making those spaces open to the public, probably barricading those off a day or two before the event, and then using those. And then we may have to have some sort of a shuttle process, perhaps. This is not a long, it's a longer walk than going from the school, Temple Terrace Elementary, to where Woodmont is today. But it's not that much of a long distance that if you had some sort of a shuttle set up, that you couldn't accommodate folks. They could park at Temple Terrace Elementary, for example. If we had to, they could park at Waverly Terrace. So there's different ways to address this, because I think one of the things you'd want to just take a real good look at is park space is limited, so I don't think we want to consume a lot of it with parking.
No.
We really want to use it for green space. And I also want to just caution folks who are watching this at home or in the audience, this plan here, this is a conceptual plan that was presented as part of their interview process. So they're going to go through an iteration, probably have public meetings, things like that. So the ultimate plan may look different than what's presented here.
Really what I just want to confirm is that this space has the size that will accommodate various community events that we have hosted throughout the city. So it's a reasonable use for this space that's really what I'm trying to get at right now.
This space will certainly be usable for community events. All of the community events that we currently hold at Woodmont might not be the right fit for this location. There may be community events such as the Arts Festival. I think the Woodmont Park is a great location for the Arts Festival. It has all those trees. It has the beautiful canopy over it. They may want to stay at Woodmont Park. I think this site here has opportunities for other events that the city does, or possibly new events that the city can locate down at this area.
Thank you.
And I just have one more question. With regard to the connection as it moves into the redevelopment area, have we talked with any of the current property owners at the redevelopment area about this proposal? And if so, have any of them expressed any opinions?
I can tell you that during the pedestrian master plan development, many of them were spoken with at that time, and all were in favor of some type of outdoor recreational attraction to obviously draw more patrons to the area. This is a brand-new concept being presented. They have not seen this as of yet, but we have individually spoken to folks regarding the Riverside, the vacant Riverside property, and also the Springdale Pond property. We just haven't presented it as a cohesive, comprehensive plan as of yet.
Thank you. So we are a little bit short for time. I know Councilmember Schisler had a follow-up question.
30 seconds. Mr. Ingham, when we come back, I'm assuming that this gets pushed forward to the council. Could you come back with a pro forma projection on TIF for the duration? I think we only got like 10 or 11 years left.
Right.
Could you come back with a forecast as to the anticipated revenues generated on anticipated properties coming online between now and the sunset of the TIF?
Yes, I can. In fact, Mr. Bahia has already tasked me with that, so
Okay.
it is on the list, so we will do that.
And one final
Yeah,
comment from Mr.
and while you're doing that, is somebody going to give us like a phasing budget or funding plan so we know how we're going to fund this down the
I was
road?
wondering if someone would ask that.
Yeah.
The good thing is we do have some options, some different
I
revenue
don't need to know them
sources.
now. I just want to know we're thinking about that.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. That's all.
Thank you all for the presentation. I think that our next order of business needs to be to send this forward to the council to handle at the June 18th meeting. Is that something, we need a motion for that, is that correct? So can we get a motion for
I
that?
move to that the CRA forward to council for further consideration the proposal made tonight by the Development Committee.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Do we need the date on that?
June 18th, if possible, whatever.
If I may, I would not attach a date to it, only because it's still in review. And
Okay.
if you'll simply grant us an action that allows us to take this to the council, that way we don't have to wait till the next CRA meeting.
But isn't this us taking it to the council to then, at council, propose to put it on the agenda?
No,
No, you'd recommend it, you're recommending it now, so staff will put it on the, assuming you approve this,
Yeah.
we'll put it on the agenda, then you can have your hearing that evening, if that's your desire.
So we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No nays? The motion passes.
Thank you.
With that said, we'll adjourn the CRA meeting. And we will resume in 2 minutes for the council meeting.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I should have announced when the next meeting is. Good evening. I'll now call the meeting for the Temple Terrace City Council on May 21st, 2024 to order. Welcome, everybody. If you would please turn off your electronic devices and silence your phones. First, we'll begin with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Schisler.
Heavenly Father, be with us tonight, be with us as we gather tonight to handle the business of our city. We thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us each and every day, and ask for your guidance to this council on the decisions we make, both large and small, that we will always do what is right and just. We ask for your comfort to the members of our extended city family who have suffered great loss recently, and to the ones who are so very ill and fighting for their lives. We ask for your grace on all of our employees of the city and for the protection of our first responders who serve and protect the citizens of our great city. In your most holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So the historical fact for today will be shared by me. First, let me take you back in time to where garbage trucks did not roam our streets to pick up our garbage. And that was an era where the per capita generation of municipal solid waste was about 2.5 pounds per day. Now it's about 5 pounds per day, so there was a lot less trash back then. So when garbage began to accumulate for Temple Terrace residents prior to the 1970s, they carted their waste to the city dump. The dump was not without problems. An article in the Temple Terrace News from 1959 outlined some of those issues. I'll read it to you. The article says, "City officials in Temple Terrace have been presented with a new problem. The dilemma was created last week when the County Health Department, answering a citizen's complaint, inspected the city dump. Health Department officials, after looking over the dumping ground at the northeast limit of the city, told Mayor Knopke that several changes in operation must be made. Complainants have objected to the flies breeding in the area as being a health hazard. If the city handles the dump situation as suggested by the Health Department, it means the purchase of a bulldozer and the employment of full-time personnel. Other alternatives are the purchase of a new dump site away from the city or the construction of an incinerator. Several years ago, the city looked into the latter possibility and found that an adequate plant would cost in the neighborhood of $80,000. In the meantime, city workmen are faced with the problem of cleaning up the dump with no special equipment. Although the health department has not issued an ultimatum, the tenor of their letter indicated that action must be taken." You may be wondering where the dump was. It was located on the site of the Family Recreation Center. I asked longtime resident Jack Ritter about the dump and what it looked like, and he said he remembered bringing things there, and it was just a big hole in the ground. I wasn't able to find all the details pertaining to the timeline of the rise and fall of the Temple Terrace City dump. A map and event schedule for the 1967 Best Foot Forward event series in Temple Terrace clearly demarcates the city dump on the map where the rec center stands today. The original rec center was dedicated in 1979, so the dump's demise occurred at some point prior to that. For those of you who might be concerned about what might be underneath today's rec center, I have on the good word of Councilmember Chambers, the former director of Leisure Services, that the dump was excavated prior to the construction of the Family Recreation Center, and more excavation took place prior to the building of expansions and the pool later on. So it doesn't seem like there's an issue to this day. So that's my historic fact. All right, so moving forward, if anyone is here for the first hearing and first reading of an ordinance concerning the rezoning of 8702 Overlook Drive, please note that this item will not be on tonight's agenda, but it may be on the agenda of a future meeting of this council. So with that said, we'll move on to the first agenda item, which is recognitions and proclamations. We have a proclamation today for National Public Works Week. I'd like to call Mr. Warrenfels, Director of Operations and Maintenance, and Mr. Tench, Director of Utilities, to the podium. Good evening. I'm going to read you the proclamation. It says, whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Temple Terrace. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens, and whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Temple Terrace to gain knowledge of and maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities, and whereas 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Abel, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Vice Mayor of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby set aside May 19th through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. With that said, would either of you like to say a few words? Or both?
Sure, I'll get started. I just wanted to thank you for recognizing the folks that are out there on a daily basis, making sure that things get done. I think we're often overlooked, but when you go to the faucet and turn it on and it runs, people don't think much about it, but when it doesn't, they think a lot about it. So thank you for this, these accolades this week. We'll be sure to pass it along to my staff.
Thank you. Mr. Warrenfeldt?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. To echo what Troy said there, the Public Works employees are dedicated staff that, work tirelessly to keep the city clean of trash. We don't take it to the rec center currently, but it's a good thought. No, we have great staff, and we have great, we've had great progress in the past year to make it better. So thank you.
Certainly, we certainly appreciate you. Let's take a picture.
All right, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Okay, we have no presentations today. We do have board appointments. We have appointments for the Fire Pension Board of Trustees. The Fire Pension Board of Trustees is established in accordance with the city's Code of Ordinances. 5 members serve on the Fire Pension Board of Trustees. Mayor Ross and Councilmember Schisler currently serve on that board, and their terms have expired. Before I call for nominations for the 2 appointments, I will say that the city manager, Mr. Bahia, has spoken with Mayor Ross, and he would be willing to accept that nomination, I understand. So with that in mind, do we have nominations?
I nominate Mayor Ross and Councilmember Schisler to the board.
Second.
We have an emotion. We have a motion. We have a nomination.
Nomination.
Do you accept the nomination? So we have acceptance from both. And do we have a motion to appoint them to the board?
I move to appoint Mayor Ross and Councilmember Schisler to the board.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion passes. So next we have consideration of minutes from previous meetings.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for the minutes on May 7th, 2024. Discussion on the motion. Those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. Any forms are in the back of the room. If you would like to speak, please give them to the clerk. Council has agreed to a 30-minute time limit for all public comment to be continued at the end of the meeting if more time is needed. A 3-minute time limit will be imposed on all comments from the public. When speakers approach the podium, please state your name and city of residence. And during public comment on items not on the agenda, city manager and directors in attendance do make note of these items, and all of your comments are taken seriously and will be followed up on. I have 2 items here. So since Overlook Drive has been removed, if people want to speak on that, their item's not on the agenda and they can speak. Is that correct?
This one's on the agenda.
I thought it was moved.
There's two.
So what's on the agenda is the rezoning for Overlook, not the actual site plan for the Overlook. Is that, Mr. Sherman can probably clarify that.
Thank you, sir. So there were going to be scheduled 2 Overlook rezonings, 8702 and 8727. 8727 is on the agenda tonight. The other one has been withdrawn. We were not quite ready for this meeting on that particular one.
Got you. So these 2 that I have say rezoning on them, so we're going to hold
So
off until.
I imagine they would be
agenda
for
item?
8727 Overlook.
I see 8720. Oh, no.
If there is somebody here for 8702 and they want to speak tonight, since it has been removed from the agenda, they may talk about that. The one that's on the agenda is also on Overlook Drive, but it's a different address.
Well, it says item 8A. So if we're doing item 8A, which it looks like we are, then they're going to wait until that time for their comments.
Yes, for 8727. But if it's 8702, that's the one that was taken off.
Okay, so those of you who are here for comment on 8A, we will wait until we get to 8A for that. Seeing no other public comment for items not listed on the agenda, we'll move on to item 8A, which is public hearings, ordinances, resolutions. First public hearing and first reading of an ordinance adopting a rezoning of property with folio numbers 201-594-0000 and 201-593-000, and with the address of 8727 Overlook Drive. First, I'll open the public hearing. And anyone who intends to speak on this matter, please stand for the oath administered by the clerk.
Raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And now I'll ask the city attorney to make an inquiry on ex parte communication.
If any member of council has received any ex parte communication, either written or oral, concerning this item, please state so for the record, and if it was in writing, you will need to provide a copy of that document to the clerk as soon as possible for the record. And if it was an oral communication or written communication, you need to state with whom that communication took place, when it took place, and what the sum and substance of the communication was. And I will start with Council Member Fernandez and ask whether you've received such communication.
I have the email that was sent to city staff that was provided to council.
Okay, and who was the email from?
It is from Kathy Lobenthal, and it was provided to Michael Sherman, and that's in our council packet.
Oh, okay, it's in the packet then.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I received the same email from Ms. Lobenthal, and I forwarded that to the city manager, and he sent it to Mike Sherman, who replied to Ms. Lobenthal. And I sent that copy of her original email and the reply to the city clerk.
I've seen that same email.
I've received nothing.
You received nothing? Nothing. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so Community Development Director Mike Sherman will explain.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, there's a public hearing, the first public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to adopt a rezoning classification on 8727 Overlook Drive. We've designated RZP 23-05. The owner is 8727 Equity Group LLC and the applicant's Development Support Services LLC. The folio ID numbers, there's 2 of them. It's 201594-40 and 201593-40. November of 2023, we received a rezoning application from the applicant proposing to change the zoning classification on 2 parcels located in our downtown community redevelopment area. This property is located approximately 540 feet south of the intersection of Overlook Drive and Bush Boulevard. Right now, the property is zoned R10, which is a single-family zoning district, and the applicant is asking to rezone that to the PD. As the council probably remembers, all rezonings in the downtown need to be, when they're rezoned, they have to be rezoned to the PD district. It's approximately 0.54 acres, and on the slide up on the screen right now, on the left is an aerial in blue, shows the properties, and on the right, it's bolded in red. The applicant has proposing to construct 8-unit duplex-style apartments, 8 duplex-style attached townhouses. The subject properties will then later be subdivided through the plat process, and the property is surrounded by single-family uses to the south and west, multifamily and a cemetery to the east, and commercial uses are up to the north on Bush Boulevard. This is the conceptual plan. This conceptual plan depicts 2-story, 2-unit townhomes sharing a common wall, and it's located on 2 parcels. It will be accessed from Overlook Drive, and at a later date, a detailed site plan and subdivision plat will be submitted to the council. The future land use map category for this area, as is for our entire downtown, is the DMU 35. It has a maximum dwelling units per acre of 35 dwelling units per acre. The property here, if it was maximum dwelling unit, would be about dwelling units based on that density would be about 19 dwelling units. The applicant is asking for 8. With this, there are some waivers. Our code requires that when somebody wants to change to a PD district, they choose the most for design, the most like zoning district, and this is for townhouses, so they designed it based on some of those townhouse standards. So they're going to need some waivers. We've listed the waivers that they've requested, and we've added 2 more. Staff has no issue with any of the waivers that they're proposing. As the council also knows, in the community redevelopment area in our downtown zoning ordinance, we require that the new buildings, as much as possible, try and meet design standards of Mediterranean architecture. So the applicant has provided elevations. These elevations are also part of an exhibit to the ordinance. This would be the front elevation, the rear elevation of the property, and the side elevations. We looked at the criteria for the architecture style in our zoning district, dealing with massing, building facades, roof form and details and materials, window treatments, and building entrances. All these are pretty much consistent with what is in the zoning district requirements for how the buildings should look. Our recommendation, well, on December 26th of 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed this and made a recommendation for consistency with the comprehensive plan, as they always make a recommendation, and they found it was consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff has reviewed that, and we recommend approval on first reading of an ordinance adopting the zoning reclassification application 23-05, which proposes to change the zoning classification for 4.45 acres from the R10 zoning district to the PD zoning district. The applicants are in the audience tonight. I can ask you any questions that y'all may have, and I believe there's also some people in the audience that want to speak to the council as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. So now for public comment. I have a couple of papers on this. First one is from Mr. Jenkins.
With all due respect, Vice Mayor, I believe the applicant would speak next.
Is that right?
That's at your liberty.
Mr. Schoen? Yes. Okay. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, please, sir.
Good evening. I know this is first reading, and typically, do you want us to go through the full presentation or wait till second reading, or we're ready to make the presentation tonight if that's what you desire? Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is Stephen Thompson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Nashby Thompson, and I have been sworn. I'm representing the applicant. With me today, I have the applicant, Mr. Charles Thomas. Also, I have our land use consultant, Todd Pressman. I'd like to begin by just saying a couple things about Mr. Thomas. It's interesting. I do a lot of land use work, and we get a lot of developers from different areas coming in to develop properties. It's interesting about Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas went to middle school in Temple Terrace, so he has a connection to this community. And I know when we first started talking with Charles, he basically said, hey, I want to make sure that we do a quality development in Temple Terrace. I have a lot invested in the community. And so I think, true to his word, we have done that. I think the first thing that we did was met with the staff and talked to the staff about what we were going to do. Had some great input from the staff. And I think that is really what was the key to this project, is making sure that we listened, obviously, to Mr. Thomas, but also to the staff, understanding what the issues were and working together. And I think as a result of that, we have really come up with what I would consider a superior plan. And that is something that you really want in that planned development district. So we've gone to great lengths to come up with a good plan. You can hear details about what we have inside of the homes. I mean, as you know, the level of the furnishings, but you can see the quality of the exterior, and we're certainly a lot less than, you know, what would be allowable under the density. We're probably about half of the allowable density. So we're not trying to squeeze everything in here. I think we remain true to what Mr. Thomas told us. I want a quality development for Temple Terrace, and I think that's what we're bringing you. Taking a look at the staff report, this request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, recommended for approval by both the planning staff and your staff. We're in agreement with the staff report and also the conditions and obviously the stipulation. So we appreciate that. At this point in time, I'm going to ask Mr. Pressman to make a presentation. I'm going to ask Mr. Thomas to come up here and talk a little bit about it. And then after the residents have spoken, I would at least like the opportunity to, if necessary, to rebut and basically go through why we think that you should approve this request. Thank you.
Great comment. Great comments. Thank you. For the record, Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. I do have a quick PowerPoint for you. There we are. Which Mr. Sherman, I think, covered very well some of the points. The filed issue, the file number, location, and what's proposed, which is 8 multifamily units. He showed you really very nice elevation that you've heard has been elements that have been discussed in terms of feedback and best suggestions for that immediate area. This would be a different elevation with a little bit of different coloring. And you saw the rear as well, which is very open with a lot of windows. The project site is the 2 parcels that you can see here per the property appraiser. And importantly, the same owner of this project owns to the north, and then is also indicated in the staff report, the cemetery is located to the north and then also to the east. And as well, in terms of consistency and compatibility, apartments are located to the rear on the east as well. The plan has been laid out to produce or to have a lower number of driveways so that the units remain looking in a nice single residential family manner. And the view from the front will maintain the same trees. The only difference of trees may be a few in the rear, depending upon the arborist report that we've received. There's a number of points I just wanted to emphasize in the staff report, which notes that the design incorporates multiple elements that allow the facade to bring continuity and cohesiveness to the entire project. It's consistent with the spirit and intent of the City of Temple Terrace downtown's mixed-use multifamily district zoning. which the future land use for this property is the downtown mixed use. The current rezoning request seeks to change from R10 to planned development, which, as just indicated to you, which I think is a very important finding, that the allowable maximum number of units is 19. However, there were only 8 units being proposed here. And as you look through the staff report, there are many, many land use policies that are referred to and that are confirmed as being consistent and compatible with this site. So with that, we appreciate your attention, and as indicated, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pressman. So now we'll do public comment. Mr. Jenkins, would you like to speak?
Good evening. My name is James Jenkins. I reside at 8722 Overlook Drive. My mother and father moved to Temple Terrace in 1949 and bought the entire side of Overlook Drive. It was wilderness then. And my father built his home there by himself, and I still own and maintain that home. But when I was married in 1986, my wife and I moved there, and I built a big, beautiful contemporary home. Many of the people that reside on Overlook Drive have been there 30, 40, or 50 years. We're a pretty close-knit community, very, very good friends, but people just don't come and go on Overlook Drive. And I have some concerns that have happened already. One is that when Ralph Lupton sold his restaurant to O'Reilly Auto Parts, O'Reilly also took one of his properties behind it, so they extended down Overlook Drive. Recently, in the last couple of years, Joe Chacho at Dewey's Liquors bought one of Lupton's residences behind Dewey's Liquors and extended down. The next thing that happened is the storage units decided on the parking lot that used to be for the bowling alley, which faces Overlook Drive, decided to put up 2-story units. So I have to look at that wall all the time. So now Mr. Thomas has already begun and been approved and is building these townhomes at the end of my street on some vacant lots that were there. And so I just feel as though they're slowly encroaching. And I don't live directly across from 8727, but I live very close to it. And personally, no matter how attractive they are, I don't want them across from my home. I do not want 2-story townhomes facing my house. It's simply not compatible with that neighborhood. And the gentleman that spoke earlier that said that Mr. Thomas had an investment in this community, I've lived on that street 71 years. I think that I have an investment in that community as well. And in closing, I'd just like to say that I know some of you in the city council. I know Ms. Fernandez, my son and her kids played baseball together. I happen to know where she lives, and I would ask you that if someone came to your neighborhood and wanted to tear down the house across the street from you, no matter how attractive they are, and put up 2-story townhomes, would you approve of that? Would you like that? I think not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Next up, I have Ms. Acton. Gail Acton.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Gail Acton. I live at 8721 Overlook Drive. I have lived there now 10 years. My parents own the house. They bought it in, I believe, 1968. They lived it until my father passed away, was the last parent I had, in 2013. I was retiring from Wisconsin, so I moved down here and took over the property, which I inherit. I have 3 lots. I built a ranch house. I thought about 2-story, but it doesn't fit in that neighborhood. And besides that, I was getting older and I wanted to downsize. So, anyway, I'm against this zoning because I'm right next door to 8727. I'm on the left-hand side with the 3 lots. Now, Mr. Charles came to my house last week and offered his help, whatever I needed. Well, what I really need is not to build any more townhouses. He had already taken over the last. And I had put a petition up 3 years ago, before he got that land at the end of our street. And I had everybody sign in the neighborhood, plus the homes that facing those townhomes now at the end of the street. So I faxed it to Gus, I believe I talked to, and he got it. Of course, I didn't follow up on it. That was my mistake. So anyway, I feel that that would be an oddball situation. And it might put a damper on my value on my own home and property. Like I said, I own 3 lots. He hinted around in liking to buy my property, I'm sure. He can build more townhomes. So I feel that it's never going to be an end to it. He's going to get whatever he wants on the property on Overlook Drive. More townhomes. So we will be kicked out. I'm not going to sell. I'm definitely not going to sell to him. If I sell, I'll sell the way I want to sell it. But anyway, I feel, like I said, I've been living here 10 years, had the house redone. It's only 10 years old now. And I want to keep it and pass it on to my family. So I don't want any townhouses next to me. So to end it all, I feel that I don't want it rezoned.
Thank you, Ms. Acton.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, would the applicant like to speak on any of the matters presented by the community?
No, I appreciate that. Really don't have much to say, but, when a developer comes into a community, the first thing he looks at is the comprehensive plan and the land development code, talks to the staff about what can we do. And that really is what happened here. And what we have tonight is really a proposal that meets all of the legal criteria and requirements of the city of Temple Terrace. And that's what we're not cutting corners, we're not doing something that's not allowed for in the code. It's basically a contract or an agreement between a homeowner and the city. And that's really all we're seeking to do. We could have requested a lot more density. We did not do that. We think that the proposal is consistent, compatible. But again, when we approach this, we determine what we could do legally, and it's a lot less than really what we could do. But certainly it does meet the city's requirements. And again, what we would request is approval with the conditions and stipulations. And I'll let Mr. Thomas talk too.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charlie Thomas, 8725 Twin Lakes Boulevard. Good to see you all. I would like to start off with a couple things. First, that this property was owned by a homeowner who had owned it for 60 years, and their children were selling it. And they reached out to us. And I think that's a testament to what we're doing and our commitment that we've been in the neighborhood, because the previous properties, they were for sale. We found the open market, but they sought us out with our previous communication to them, Reese, and said, hey, we like what you're doing on the end down there. We would like you to do something with this. The house has been deteriorated, and so we were able to facilitate it and then purchase this house. And so I say that, one, to say that there's a myriad of people in the neighborhood, but one of the neighborhood members reached out to us to say, hey, we would like you to develop this. The second part I would like to say is that we've heard you, right? We came here before. The overlay district calls for multifamily, rental, high density, and then we got the sentiment that that's not what the council has a taste or feel for. And so what we did on the development for this was to address that. We wanted single family home ownership with a single family neighborhood feel to it, which is what the design that you have there. We've gone back and forth with staff. The original design, staff had issues that they wanted a single drive, and we fought hard and said we couldn't come to agreement on a single driveway because that would give a look of an apartment complex or something like that. and would have a 24, 28-foot driveway down the center. So we've taken a lot of time and energy to make sure that we've heard what you asked for and that we've come back with something that's not only compatible for the neighborhood, that meets the comprehensive plan and the intent for the overlay district. Not that it does allow for 35, but it's a appropriate mix, right? 35 next to this. And then, so our neighbors are the commercial building that has a 2-story wall on it, the white wall, the graveyard behind us, and then the apartment complex there. We believe that it's consistent with the plan, and it has not only the spirit, but the intent of what the development would look like in the community. So we request your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Pressman.
Just a couple points. I think it's important to recognize that the R10 category now allows structures up to 35 feet high, obviously 2-story. So in regard to height issues, what's permissible now and what's proposed are basically the same, even though this would, the structure probably would be a little bit less than that. But when you look at the staff report, it does bring out a number of, I think, critical land use policies. 3.5.7 to establish concentrations of housing of varying densities with varying mixes of uses. Goal number 1, provide a variety of adequate housing in order to serve the community's population in an orderly fashion and promote the vision of Temple Terrace. And policy 1.2.6, the city shall encourage a greater variety of housing types, occupancy standards, and sizes to diversify yet maintain compatibility with single-family neighborhoods. And Goal 9, Objective 9D, provide a housing inventory and living environment that supports its population and provides a safe and pleasing environment. And these are elements that you find throughout Tampa Bay as housing is becoming critical and affordable housing is becoming critical, and the new term missing middle housing, which is what this would apply to, is desperately needed throughout Tampa Bay. That's what these land use category or these land use goals refer to, and that is precisely what is proposed here. So with that, we appreciate your attention and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pressman. So now we'll open it up for council member questions. Council members, do we have any questions?
I do.
Mr. Chambers.
First, Mr. Sherman. It was mentioned that height is not a factor in this rezoning because 2-story could be built on the current zoning classification. What would be different in this project if the zoning did not change?
If the zoning did not change, it would still allow for single-family homes. They would have to be detached single-family homes, whereas these are attached single-family homes. The height would not change. It would still allow 35 feet or 2 stories. Lot coverages and things like that, there would be some minor differences. It's just a higher density in the DMU 35 category.
I know I'm asking you to speculate, but of the 8 units, what, if it stayed R10, what could be built, the number of units? I believe
it's 1 house per lot, so 2 units.
Okay.
Might be able to subdivide it. I don't have the lot width in front of me, but I believe 1 house per lot would be built.
Okay. That's all I have. I have something for the developer.
Other questions from council? Okay, seeing none.
Wait, I want to talk to the developer now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Great, yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Or somebody. And I know this really doesn't have to do with the zoning, but I'm going to ask anyway. Since they're individually owned townhomes, the mowing of their areas, that's done by the individual, the homeowner? There's not going to be an association, or is there?
There would still be an HOA. There will be an HOA. What we've done, 8701, there will still be an HOA. This one's a little bit different. The water is paid by individually, it'll be individually metered, and then there will probably be a community lawn service. Because of the swell in the backyard, the storm water retention, it would be paid by the HOA. So it would be an HOA fee to cover that.
Okay, garbage, same thing?
Garbage would be individually, it would be picked up with the water meter.
Okay, and my last question, again, it doesn't have to do with this, but my curiosity, would there be fencing? Could somebody fence between the detached units?
Well, the city.
It's only going to, if they wanted to fence in their side yard
Side yard setback, currently, no. They could fence in, it could be fenced in from the HOA from a security purpose, the perimeter, and then there would be gates to access the back.
Okay.
But the way it's platted, fee simple, they own the square box and then the driveway. And then the other would be common area.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions.
Just to answer your question, currently it's 3 units that's allowable.
Okay.
What you asked earlier, it's 3 units. Through the PD process, it would be 4.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? All right. So I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, rezoning .545 acres of real property within the downtown community development area located approximately 540 feet south of the intersection of Overlook Drive and Bush Boulevard with an address of 8727 Overlook Drive, folio numbers 201-594-0000 and 201-593-0000 from zoning classification single-family residential R10 to plan development PD, providing for amendment to the official zoning map of the city, providing severability and effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
The ordinance is acceptable. I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance rezoning the property at 8727 Overlook Drive.
Move to approve on first reading the reclassification, the ordinance approving the rezoning of the folio numbers 201-594-0000 and 201-593-0000, the address of 8727 Overlook Drive. This would be an approval of first public hearing and reading with a second. We have a date certain on the second. What will that be? Next.
June 4th.
Okay, with the second hearing scheduled for June 4th.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there discussion on the motion?
I just would like to thank the developer for it. I recognize that there's concerns in the neighborhood, but I know that Mr. Thomas has done great work with the other area, and I have confidence, and he will uphold and live up to the commitment he's made to this area also. I'm confident.
Anything else? Okay. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. The motion passes. If approved, this ordinance will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. All right, next, council business. Anyone have any carryover council business? Nope. Okay. New business and board reports.
I just have one item.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Just to follow up with the Riverwatch Task Force, they discussed the comments from the last council meeting at their meeting last night, and we'll be coming back with an adjusted policies and goals. So I'll let you know when that's finished.
Thank you for the update. Nothing else? Okay. City manager's report.
Madam Vice Mayor, members of council, I have nothing to add.
City attorney's report.
I don't have a report, but I wanted to introduce our legal intern that we have right now, who is a student at Thomas Cooley Law School, and that is Kimberly Stafford. She's right over here. So, and she's in our office at least 2 days a week, and if anybody wants to stop by, they can, but I have her working really, really hard.
Welcome, Kimberly.
Welcome.
Happy to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. Right. With that said, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much. Yes. I didn't mean to cut you.